Hello again. In 1975, the Church of England voted for women priests, and on the 12th of March 1994, the first 32 women were ordained as Church of England priests. In late November 2012, the Church of England voted against the ordination of women bishops. There was such a hullabaloo about this, with people in tears, that women were not to be allowed as bishops in the Church of England. But what does the Bible say about women preaching in church? The Bible is a Christian's instruction manual, and what it says should go. But it doesn't, with so many who feel that God and the Bible have to change to fit in with modern requirements. In other words, we can shape and mould God in the image that suits us best. Of course, that is utter nonsense. God does not change, and Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. No change there then, so why should there be a change in what God says in His inspired word? Let us see what the Bible says on this matter. In the booklet, The Keys to Happy Marriages and Families, this is what is written on this subject. It says, notice 1 Timothy 2 verses 11 to 15, where Paul says, "Let a woman learn in silence with all submission, and I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man, but to be in silence. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived fell into transgression. Nevertheless, she will be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith, love, and holiness with self-control." Notice too the parallel passage in 1 Corinthians 14 verses 34 and 35. "Let your women keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but they are to be submissive, as the law says. And if they want to learn something, let them ask their own husbands at home, for it is shameful for women to speak in church." We find described here the aspects of the role of the woman that deal with submission, including submission to her husband. Wives are not to speak, teach, or preach in church, but they are to ask their husbands at home. This requires, of course, that the husband can be asked, that he is approachable and not too busy to talk to his wife, and that he is knowledgeable enough to give his wife the answers that she needs. If he does not have the answers, he should ask those who know. It is true that there were prophetesses in the Old Testament, and it is also true that some women prophesied in New Testament times. There will come a time when young women will prophesy again, as it says in Joel 2 verses 28. These passages cannot be used, however, to justify women preaching in church, as Paul made it clear that this should not be permitted. Some quote Acts 18 verses 24 to 26 as authority to permit women to preach in church. In that passage, Aquila and Priscilla took Apollos aside, whom they had heard preaching in the synagogue, and they explained to him the way of God more accurately. It is not clear from that passage to what extent Priscilla did the teaching, or whether she was just agreeing with her husband. In any event, it is noteworthy that they took Apollos aside. Priscilla especially did not teach Apollos in front of others. In today's world of mass communication, churches often use radio, television, the printing press, or even the internet to publish spiritual material. Women should not deliver sermons on radio or television either, nor should they write biblical, prophetic, ecclesiastical, or spiritual articles. They could write articles in addressing topics such as child rearing, homemaking, cooking, or other matters relating more to our physical lives, thereby avoiding a possible conflict in writing about spiritual matters. And then the booklet goes on to look at some interesting commentaries on this subject. It then goes on to say, the scriptures make it very clear that a woman is not to assert authority over her husband. God chided Old Testament Israel for having permitted women to rule over men. We see that in Isaiah 3 verse 12. Husbands are to exert proper authority over their wives. They must do so with godly love, and they must never abuse that authority. But as it is shameful for a wife to exert authority over her husband, and especially in public, so it is shameful for the husband to let his wife exert authority over him. In 1 Corinthians 11 verses 7 and 8 we read, "Woman is the glory of man, for man is not from woman, but woman from man. The woman was created by God to be a helper of her husband, not to take over her husband's role and exert authority over him. God did not create the wife to tell her husband what to do, and to become angry when her husband selflessly decides, after careful deliberation, meditation and prayer, not to do a particular thing." You can read these comments and many other subjects covered in this 34-page booklet by going to the website www.globalchurchofgod.co.uk, clicking on literature, then booklets, and then this specific booklet, The Keys to Happy Marriages and Families. For those who cannot access the website, you can always write in for your free copy.